They laughed at the warning. That was the mistake that ended them. Across the spiral arms of the Orion expanse, the Galactic Coalition believed itself eternal. For 10,000 years, no united force had ever stood against it. Entire civilizations had fallen with a vote, a signature, and the quiet approval of power. And now, once again, the coalition gathered, confident, calm, and blind. The Chamber of Accord floated above a dead star, a structure larger than cities, forged from metals older than memory. Representatives from over 3,000 species filled its endless tiers. Creatures of flame hovered beside beings of stone. Minds linked by light sat beside bodies bound by gravity. They had come to decide the fate of a species called humanity. At the center stood strategist Varkesh, supreme executor of coalition expansion. His species, the Kartal, were bred for conquest. Tall, armored, and cold-eyed, they had broken 74 civilizations in less than a millennium. Humans occupy 18 systems, Varkesh announced, his voice amplified across the chamber. Their expansion rate is chaotic. Their technology is inefficient. Their military doctrine is primitive. They possess no formal alliances. A ripple of agreement spread through the chamber. They sit on fertile worlds, Varkesh continued. Rare elements. Water-rich planets. We will claim them. That was when the chamber lights dimmed. From the lowest tier rose Archivist Thalos, one of the last of the Athrene. His body was thin and pale, supported by floating rings of ancient machinery. His species did not conquer. They remembered. No, Thalos said quietly. The word carried farther than any shout. Varkesh turned, annoyed. You object, Archivist. I warn, Thalos replied. With a slow motion, he activated the archive core. A hologram bloomed to life, fractured images stitched together by time. Burning stars. Shattered fleets. Planets stripped to lifeless stone. These records predate the coalition, Thalos said. They predate most of you. The images shifted. A small blue planet appeared. Storm-wrapped. Alive. Humans evolved here, Thalos continued. A world of constant disaster. Predators. Disease. Climate collapse. Extinction-level events. Varkesh folded his arms. Every species survives hardship. No, Thalos said. Most adapt. Humans endure. The hologram changed again. Alien warships, vast and countless, approached the blue planet. This was the Dominion of Ashkara, Thalos said. 1 million warships. They found Earth when humans had not yet left their planet. What happened? Someone asked. They experimented, Thalos replied. They enslaved. They underestimated. The chamber grew silent as the next image appeared. The Dominion's worlds, empty. 3 centuries later, Thalos said, the Ashkara were gone. No surrender. No remains. Just warnings. Symbols filled the air. Thousands of languages. All saying the same thing. Do not threaten humans. Do not corner them. Do not make them afraid. Varkesh laughed. Stories, he said. Ghosts of extinct empires. Then answer me this, Thalos said. Why did humanity never expand aggressively? No one spoke. Because they remember, Thalos continued. They learned long ago what happens when survival becomes war. Varkesh stepped forward. Enough. If humans are so dangerous, why have they not ruled the galaxy? Because they don't want to, Thalos said. Until they must. The vote followed. Overwhelming approval. The invasion was authorized. Thalos did not argue again. He simply transmitted a single message to every neutral world within reach. Leave human space. Run far. Run now. The Coalition Armada arrived at Eden 17, humanity's largest agricultural world. 10,000 warships eclipsed the star. On the bridge of the flagship Unbroken Will, High Admiral Kayla observed the planet below. Green continents. Blue oceans. Fragile cities. Scans. Kayla asked. Minimal defenses, replied the tactical officer. Orbital drones. Civilian traffic. No combat fleet detected. Kayla smiled. Broadcast surrender terms. The message went unanswered. After 1 hour, Kayla sighed. Fire a warning strike. A single beam descended. It never reached the surface. Instead, it slowed, stopped, and folded inward like light caught in a mirror. Then it returned. The beam struck the unbroken wool dead center. The ship vanished in silence. Shock paralyzed the fleet. Before panic could spread, every screen activated. A human appeared. She wore no uniform. No armor. Just calm eyes and tired resolve. My name is Dr. Ilara Voss, she said. Director of Earth Defense Continuity. Her gaze hardened. You were warned. Every coalition ship went dark. Engines dead. Weapons offline. Navigation erased. In the silence, something moved inside the ships. Walls bent. Floors rippled. Fear arrived, pure and absolute. We evolved on a world that never forgave weakness, Dr. Voss said softly. You came to test that lesson. Screams echoed through the fleet. This, she finished, is the cost. The galaxy had never heard silence like this before. 10,000 coalition warships floated helplessly above Eden 17, drifting without power, without control, without hope. In space, silence was normal, but this silence was different. It was the quiet that comes after certainty dies. Inside the disabled ships, gravity flickered. Emergency lights failed one by one. Species that had conquered worlds now clung to walls, claws, tendrils, or magnetic boots, waiting for orders that would never come. High Admiral Kayla was already dead, but the fleet did not know it yet. In the shattered remains of the unbroken will, survivors floated amid twisted metal and frozen bodies. Commander Reth Ka, a veteran tactician of the Valori, struggled to activate a backup console. Status, he demanded into the dark. No reply. The ship was blind. Deaf. Alone. Then the walls moved. Not exploded. Not breached. They flowed. Metal softened like water, bending inward without heat or force. From within the hull emerged shapes that did not reflect light properly, outlines that hurt the mind to focus on. Reth Ka felt something ancient stir inside him. Fear. The shapes moved with purpose. Silent. Precise. A Valori Marine fired blindly. The plasma bolt vanished midair, swallowed by nothing. A moment later, the Marine was gone, pulled through the ceiling as if reality itself had opened its mouth. Across the fleet, the same thing happened. On the bridge of a smaller cruiser, Captain Joranel, a crystalline being whose species communicated through harmonic vibration, tried to sing an emergency signal. The sound never left her body. The air around her froze, solidifying into a lattice that crushed her form into glittering dust. No weapons worked. No shields activated. The invaders had entered a battlefield where the rules no longer applied. Far away, deep beneath Earth's surface, the continuity vault pulsed with quiet activity. Humans watched. Not with joy. Not with anger. With resolve. Dr. Ilara Voss stood before a curved wall of data streams. Around her, scientists, engineers, and strategists worked in calm coordination. No one cheered. No one celebrated. They had done this before. Phase 1 containment is holding, reported Marcus Hale, systems architect. No coalition vessel has re-established power. Ilara nodded. Good. Maintain perimeter distortion. A young analyst hesitated. Director, are we going too far? Ilara looked at him, not unkindly. They crossed our border, she said. They ignored the warnings written in the ashes of empires. This is not punishment. This is prevention. She turned back to the display. Long ago, humanity had learned a truth the galaxy refused to accept. War was not about strength. It was about understanding reality better than your enemy. The coalition believed humans fought with ships and guns. That belief had doomed them. The things moving through the ships were not creatures. They were constructs, self-directing war algorithms embedded into manipulated spacetime fields. Humans called them shadows, not because they were dark, but because they existed in the blind spots of physics. They moved through matter the way humans once moved through air. They did not kill quickly. They erased. Every officer removed. Every command structure dissolved. Every database wiped at the quantum level. Within minutes, the coalition fleet no longer existed as an organized force. Only drifting coffins remained. In the chamber of accord, the first distress signals arrived. Then stopped. Representatives shouted. Councils panicked. Species that had voted for invasion demanded answers. Only Archivist Thalos remained still. "They are not fighting you," he said softly. "They are ending the threat." A projection activated, unauthorized. Dr. Ilara Voss appeared before the full coalition assembly. "You ignored us," she said. "So now we speak clearly." Fear rippled through the chamber. "We do not want your space. We do not want your resources. We do not want your submission." She paused. "But we will not allow predators to circle our children." A delegate screamed, "You're committing genocide." Ilara's expression did not change. "No," she said. "We are dismantling an invasion force. Your people will live. Your fleets will not." The feed cut. Thalos closed his eyes. The warnings had failed. Now came the lesson. Back at Eden 17, the last coalition ship fell silent. Orbit cleared. Not a single human city had been touched. Dr. Voss allowed herself one slow breath. "Phase 2, she said. Across human space, ancient systems long thought dormant began to wake. Not weapons. Signals. Messages seeded into the fabric of subspace itself. Warnings that could not be erased, translated into every known method of perception. This is what happens when you ignore us. On distant worlds, ancient species felt it and fled. Younger empires laughed. For now, in the ruins of the coalition fleet, a single survivor drifted. Commander Reth Ka clung to debris, his body failing, his mind shattered. He watched as a shadow passed him by, pausing, almost curious. Then it left him. Why spare him? Hours later, a human rescue craft arrived. Not to save him. To deliver him. Reth Ka was brought before Dr. Voss. "Why am I alive?" he whispered. "So you can remember," she replied. She leaned closer. "And so the galaxy can hear your voice." Commander Reth Ka became the most important voice in the galaxy. He did not want to be. His body had been rebuilt with human medical science, bone fused with synthetic lattice, damaged organs replaced, shattered nerves coaxed back to life. Humans could have let him die. They chose not to. That choice haunted him more than the shadows. Reth Ka sat alone in a white room aboard the human station Solace Point, orbiting far from Earth. No restraints bound him. No guards watched him. The door remained open. That frightened him. A screen activated. Dr. Ilara Voss appeared, older now, lines of exhaustion carved deeper into her face. "You'll be returned to your people," she said. "Before that, you'll tell your story." Reth Ka's voice trembled. "They won't believe me." "They will," Ilara said. "Fear travels faster than disbelief." The transmission reached every major network in the galaxy. Reth Ka spoke. He described the silence. The way physics betrayed them. The shadows that moved without mercy or hatred. The feeling of being outmatched not by strength, but by understanding. When he finished, no one interrupted. Then came the questions. "Why didn't they destroy us all?" asked a Triune delegate. Reth Ka swallowed. Because they didn't need to. Humans had learned restraint the hard way. Long before first contact, before alien empires or galactic councils, humanity had nearly erased itself. Wars that burned continents. Weapons that poisoned generations. Machines that almost replaced their creators. They survived by choosing limits. Dr. Voss addressed the coalition again, this time with no anger in her voice. "We discovered something early," she said. "Power without control destroys the wielder. The humans could erase worlds. They chose not to. Instead, they perfected something far more terrifying. Containment. In a deep archive beneath the Martian surface, humanity's oldest records were stored. Not history. Warnings. The first shadow prototypes were built centuries ago, not to fight aliens, but to stop humanity itself if it crossed certain lines. Fail-safes layered upon fail-safes. If Earth ever attempted conquest. If human leadership ever pursued extermination. If survival turned into domination. The shadows would turn inward. That was the rule. The galaxy had unknowingly benefited from humanity's fear of its own potential. Reth Ka was released. He returned to a fractured coalition where fleets no longer gathered and votes no longer came easily. Expansion halted. Borders tightened. Ancient species re-emerged from hiding. And everywhere, the same question echoed. What else are humans hiding? Years passed. Humanity did not advance. They watched. They helped rebuild trade lanes. They shared medicine. They restored damaged ecosystems on neutral worlds. They never shared weapons. Never shared shadow technology. Never explained how it worked. Then something older than the coalition moved. Beyond mapped space, beyond the warning signals seeded by humanity, something noticed the silence left by fallen empires. An intelligence that fed on collapse. It had devoured civilizations before humans ever stood upright. And now, it turned toward Sol. Deep space sensors registered the anomaly first, a distortion spreading like rot through subspace. Dr. Voss stared at the readings. "Contact the coalition," she said quietly. "They won't be ready," an aide replied. Ilara nodded. "Neither were we. Once." She straightened. "But we learned." On distant worlds, the warnings flared again, brighter this time. "This is not an invasion. This is extinction. Stand with us or disappear alone." For the first time in galactic history, humanity did not stand apart. They opened their hand. And waited. The galaxy had always feared invasion. It had never feared being eaten. The anomaly did not arrive with fleets or signals. There was no declaration of war, no demands, no warnings that could be translated. Entire systems simply went quiet. Stars dimmed. Subspace collapsed into static. Trade routes ended in nothing. Worlds vanished without debris. The ancient species knew the name. They had not spoken it in tens of thousands of years. The null tide. Archivist Thalos watched the report stream in from the outer rim. His tentacles trembled as memories long buried clawed their way back to the surface. He had been young when the null tide last fed. Young, by Ethrene standards, meant merely ancient. "It has found us again," he whispered. This time, it would not find a galaxy divided. On Earth, the Continuity Council convened for the first time in 2 centuries. Humans sat beside aliens. Not conquerors. Not subjects. Survivors. Dr. Ilara Voss stood at the center, her voice steady despite the weight of what she carried. "The null tide is not an empire," she said. "It is not a species in any way we understand. It is a self-propagating collapse event. It consumes complexity. The more advanced a civilization becomes, the faster it feeds." A delegate asked the question no one wanted answered. How did humanity survive it before? Ilara did not answer immediately. Because the truth was not heroic. It was desperate. Humanity's first war against the null tide was fought before faster-than-light travel. Before alliances. Before humanity had any idea it was not alone. The tide reached the edge of Sol and stalled. Not because it was stopped. But because it could not understand humans. Human society was messy. Decentralized. Contradictory. Humans argued, resisted, disobeyed, adapted. Their systems were not optimized. Their networks were inefficient. Their cultures fractured and overlapping. The null tide fed on order. Humanity was chaos. That chaos slowed it long enough for humans to notice. And prepare. We didn't defeat it, Ilara admitted. We contained it. The shadows were never designed to fight fleets. They were designed to fight collapse. They disrupted causality, introduced noise into perfect systems, turned predictability into randomness. To the null tide, they were poison. The coalition listened. For the first time in history, alien fleets did not posture. They did not demand command. They asked, "What do we do?" Ilara exhaled. "You let go of control." That was harder than any battle. The combined defense did not look like a fleet. It looked like disorder. Human engineers rewrote alien command systems to remove central authority. Trade networks were fractured intentionally. Military hierarchies dissolved into autonomous cells. It went against everything the coalition believed. But the tide slowed. Where it encountered perfect systems, it accelerated. Where it encountered human-designed chaos, it faltered. The first joint battle took place in the shattered remains of a dead system. The null tide manifested as absence, a region where space itself failed to behave. Ships entering it vanished, not destroyed, but simplified into nothing. Human vessels did not engage directly. They seeded the region with shadows. Not to attack. To confuse. Reality twisted. Predictive collapse failed. The tide recoiled, not in pain, but in rejection. For the first time, it retreated. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Humans did not cheer. They knew better. It learns, Marcus Hale warned. Everything does. Ilara nodded. Then we keep changing. Humanity's greatest weapon was not technology. It was adaptation. They rotated strategies, changed physics constants locally, introduced irrational variables. Every human commander was given freedom to improvise. Alien commanders struggled. Humans thrived. Reth Ka watched the war unfold from a coalition command station redesigned by humans. "You fight like you don't care about winning," he said. Ilara gave a tired smile. "We care about surviving. Winning comes later." The tide pushed again. Harder this time. Entire sectors were lost. Worlds burned. Species fled into human-controlled zones, where they were given shelter without condition. No oaths. No tribute. Only one rule. You do not threaten humanity. No one argued. At the edge of the Sol exclusion zone, the null tide gathered itself for a final surge. Sensors screamed. Shadows deployed. Humanity did something it had never shared before. They opened the failsafe. A system designed not to protect Earth, but to erase humanity itself if it ever became the galaxy's greatest threat. They aimed it outward. Not to destroy the tide, but to deny it. The failsafe detonated across subspace, rewriting causality into static for a single, impossible moment. The null tide broke apart, not dead, but scattered beyond coherence. It fled. Silence returned. This time, it was earned. In the aftermath, the galaxy changed. There was no coalition anymore. There was no empire. There was an agreement. Humans would remain. They would not rule. They would not conquer. But if the warnings came again, everyone would listen. Archivist Thalos recorded the final entry. "Humanity is not the strongest species," he wrote. "They are the most dangerous, because they know exactly what they are capable of, and they choose restraint." He closed the archive, and hoped the lesson would last. The galaxy never returned to what it was, and no one wanted it to. In the years following the retreat of the null tide, borders faded. Not vanished, but softened. Trade resumed slowly, carefully, with redundancy built into every system. No single world controlled food. No single fleet guarded peace. Centralization was no longer seen as strength. It was seen as risk. Humans had not asked for authority. That made them trusted. On Earth, Dr. Ilara Voss stood on a balcony overlooking the Atlantic. The ocean was calm, reflecting a sky full of stars, More stars than any human in history had ever known. Marcus Hale joined her. "They're calling it the Sol Accord," he said. Ilara nodded. "I expected as much." "The rules are simple," Marcus continued. "No forced expansion. No preemptive wars. No threats against human space. Ever." "And if someone breaks it?" Ilara asked. Marcus didn't smile. Everyone remembers what happened last time. Across the galaxy, warnings once etched in ruins were replaced with something new. Not fear. Memory. Every major world carried a human-built archive node. Not hidden. Not protected by weapons. Open to anyone. Inside were recordings. The fall of the Ashkara. The silence of the Coalition fleet. The first encounter with the Null Tide. No propaganda. No edits. Just truth. Humanity understood something fundamental. You didn't need to dominate the story. You only needed to make sure it was never forgotten. Commander Reth Ka became an ambassador. Not because he wanted power, but because people listened when he spoke. "They could have destroyed us," he told assemblies again and again. "They chose not to. Ask yourselves why." Some species never answered that question. They faded. Those who stayed learned. Humanity did not advance its borders. Instead, it advanced ideas. Shared disaster response models. Distributed energy systems. Medical techniques designed for adaptability instead of perfection. They never shared shadow technology. They never shared the failsafe. Those remained buried. Because some tools were only safe in the hands of those afraid to use them. Archivist Thalos lived long enough to see something he never expected. Children. Etherian children, human children, crystalline children, learning together on mixed worlds. Studying history not as conquest, but as consequence. He recorded his final message shortly before his passing. "The galaxy once believed humans were weak because they did not conquer," he said. "We now know they were strong because they did not need to." Far beyond known space, fragments of the Null Tide drifted, broken, scattered, unable to reform. They avoided chaotic regions. They avoided humanity. Instinctively. On the anniversary of the invasion that never became a war, a single message was broadcast from Earth. It carried no threat. Only a reminder. "We warned you once," Dr. Voss said, her voice older but steady. "You listened too late." She looked into the camera. "If the warning ever comes again, listen early." The transmission ended. No applause followed. No celebration. Just quiet understanding. Humanity returned to what it had always done best. Living. Struggling. Creating. Arguing. Dreaming. They remained flawed. They remained dangerous. But they also remained something rare in the universe. A species that had faced extinction, power, and fear, and chosen restraint every time it mattered. And because of that choice, the galaxy endured. The warning was no longer a myth. It was law. And no one would ever ignore it again.